Hello and welcome to another video of the IT Career Guide YouTube channel. In today's video I want to talk about how to bounce back from a failed exam. So before we get into the topic here, please subscribe to my channel, and if you liked the video, please give it a big thumbs up and smash that like button. It really helps me with the YouTube algorithm and that more people can find my videos. So hopefully you will never get into that situation, but most likely if you take a lot of certification exams, sooner or later you will run into that situation that you will fail an exam, and then the question is, how do you bounce back? How do you keep yourself motivated? So if you take a lot of certification exams, the situation will come. It's not an if, it's a when. When you fail that exam, how do you bounce back from it? How do you keep yourself motivated? How do you move forward? So first of all, I want to go back in time a little bit and talk about my own experience. Many years ago, I was working on my Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer title, and I had to take a total of 6 exams at that time. The first 5 I found fairly easy. I passed them all in the first attempt, but number 6 was a difficult one for me, and I failed. So first of all, why was it so difficult for me? So with that Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer certification track back then, you could choose between electives. So there were 4 mandatory exams that you had to take, and I passed all those on the first attempt, and then you could choose between 2 electives. One of the electives I had chosen was about Microsoft SQL Server. Up to that point, I had no experience with Microsoft SQL Server whatsoever, but I knew from talking to other people how important it was to understand database administration. So I selected Microsoft SQL Server as the elective back then, studied for it. I did not really have an opportunity for any hands-on work with SQL Server, so I had to stretch things a little bit, and really it was challenging to acquire the knowledge to memorize it. If you don't do it every day, or if you don't do it at least every once in a while, it's just difficult. So I thought I was ready for the exam. I signed up, I paid my $100, I went in and I failed. So I had in the low 60s or 60% range back then, and that was not enough to pass the exam, and I had to go back. And so that was really for me my own experience. What did I have to do to keep myself motivated and to move forward? So first of all, when I failed the exam, I left the exam office, I went back into my car, and as always I have a notepad and a pen in my car, and so I wrote down what I remembered. So this was many years ago. You didn't get any information really why you failed, at least not at a level where it was helpful. So I tried to write down the questions that I remembered where I had to guess. The questions that I felt were really difficult and where I just didn't know the answer, and where guessing was my only option. So I tried to remember and wrote down as much as I could. Then I went home and I started researching the topics. And with going home and researching the topics, yes, I started immediately when I came home. So I went online, looked up forums and discussion boards, and really tried to match up the questions that I had experienced with what other people were talking about. And then I added this to my notes, and after a couple hours I was exhausted, I was demotivated in that moment, and so I just took a break. But for me it was really important to take the first couple hours when everything is fresh in your mind, to really memorize it, write it down, and you can come back later on and really take a look at it, and then spend the appropriate amount of time researching more, learning, studying, and going back for the practice exams, and then go back and take that final test. So I had the areas where I thought I was not sufficiently trained. I studied more, I did the practice tests, I talked to other people online, and really tried to put myself into a position where I felt comfortable and confident going back and taking the exam again. So I passed the exam in the second attempt, and I was then allowed to call myself an MCSE, a Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer. So, but for me it was really an important step in my career in IT to move forward and to really move from a help desk position into the more advanced system administration and ultimately systems engineering. So what I learned from that time and from talking to other people is really, okay, write down what you memorized, take a break. So, and this is what I want to recommend to you. If you fail an exam, it's not the end of the world. So again, try to write down what you memorized. Just while it is fresh, just really write it down and just dump it all on paper, and that's it. You don't have to do anything else. Take a day or two or three off from studying, just relax. Give yourself a break, take a breather, do something completely different. Anything that gets your mind distracted and that resets your brain in a certain way. Do some Netflix, binge watching, have some fun, ease your mind, go for a run, go for a hike, do whatever, just don't stress about it. Also, don't stress about the score, specifically when you're really close but you still missed the mark. It doesn't matter. So you missed it, you failed. So, and it doesn't matter if you missed it by 1 point or by 100 points. You missed the mark, you failed. So don't really worry about stressing about the score. The same thing as you go forward, don't worry about the score. It's really just about you need to pass. In the end, nobody will ask you for your points. It doesn't matter if you have 99% or if you are just 1 point above the passing score. So nobody will ever ask you or rate you by it. So really don't worry about it. Also, just be aware, depending on how many exams you take, sooner or later, even the most skilled person will fail a test. So a lot of these questions are not written for real life. They're written for the intent that the certification exam provider has in mind. So with that I mean like Microsoft, COMPTIA, Cisco. So they have certain things in mind when they create these questions. And they're not always fully aligned with real life scenarios. So don't worry about that too much. Everyone will fail at one point sooner or later, and it's not the end of the world. You will start over, you regroup, and you will get back, and then the next time you will pass. And maybe you fail 2 or 3 times, whatever, it does not matter. You have to go back, you have to stand up again, and again, memorize, write everything down. With every attempt you learn a little more, you understand the questions. And as mentioned, the certification providers, they have certain things in mind. You have to answer the question based on what they want. So, and that's really where your studies are so important, where the practice exams are so important. Don't necessarily go what you think in real life would be the scenario. So that's really a critical piece to remember. So go back through your notes, start refreshing your knowledge. Again, identify the areas where you feel a little weak, where you have to spend more time, and focus on those. Build up the extra knowledge in those areas. Take the questions apart that you find in practice exams. Ask them online, ask friends, ask anyone that potentially works in that area specifically, and really build up your knowledge. That knowledge will give you the confidence when you walk into the exam that you are able to pass it. So then also, if you look at a certification that you want to achieve, it has 4 pillars that you have to go through with your training. So study the books, look at the training videos, do the labs, do the practice exams, and spend the appropriate amount of time. So memorize what is critical for the exam, not necessarily what is critical for real life. Yes, you want to use these exams and the studies to build up a good foundation of knowledge that you can use in your day-to-day job, or when you want to break into IT, that will help you to be successful there. But for now, you're looking at the exam, and that's what you have to focus on. If you failed an exam, give yourself at least 2 to 3 weeks before re-attempting the certification exam. So it's just, you have to disconnect, so the initial break is important. Then you rebuild your knowledge, you rebuild your skills, and usually 2 weeks is just not enough. So really look at 3-4 weeks, and in the big scheme of things, those 2 extra weeks don't make a difference. And if it's 2 months, that's fine as well. You want to be confident when you walk into the exam that you have the right knowledge. Then plan, when do you want to take the test again? So put a reminder on the calendar, or have a daily countdown that tells you, I have 22 more days, I have 21 more days, I have 20 days. Build a plan around what you want to do during those days. So where you spend time studying, where you go through the labs, where you go and look at the videos, and then you take practice exams. So, and you can start with taking 1 practice exam a day, but also take the time, go through these practice exams, and why did you fail certain questions. So that's very important. Then spend dedicated time where you go and really just do 2 or 3 practice exams, and then you go back and analyze your questions and restudy in those areas. It's very, very critical. try to find different test exams. Maybe the ones that you had are not close enough to the real thing. I'm not saying looking for cheats or anything, but there are so many different test exams out there. Not everything is as close to the real thing as possible. So try to identify which ones are closer to the actual exam. Then the last 2 or 3 days before you want to take the exam again, go onto Reddit, go onto discussion forums, Facebook, wherever you connect with people, and just look for what people report back that just went through the exam. If they passed or not passed, it doesn't matter. But they might drop a clue for you what to look for. Or maybe there's this one question that is so critical to understand, and maybe they mention it, and maybe they even give you the solution. So spend some time there and add this to your preparation for the exam. And then go and get that sucker. So really, you got it, you are confident, you can walk in there. Don't worry about the money, don't worry about failing again. You will have this ultimately. So, and building up that confidence, that's really the critical piece. So, and you will be able to go through these, you will experience this at least once in your life, most likely, maybe more than once. And it's just good to have a plan. So, and hopefully when you watch this video, you did not have to experience that failure. But if you did, either way, I hope that this video will really help you. And again, it happened to me, and well, I had to put myself back together, and I gave myself 3-4 weeks, and I went back and I passed the exam. I don't even remember the score, and it doesn't really matter. It's important that I passed and that I had the title. So, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe. It really helps me. And then I hope to see you in my next video. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Bye-bye.